Think igloos are just chilly little snow huts? Not even close. These snow domes were smart, warm, and way more practical than they look. Most people have no idea how clever they really are, or how much thought went into every block of snow. Here are 10 surprising things about Inuit igloos. When most people think about igloos, they picture these amazing snow palaces where Inuit families lived all winter long, kind of like a cozy winter condo with free air conditioning that nobody asked for. Honey, I've found us the perfect winter home. It melts in spring, so we never have to clean. But that's not exactly how things worked in the Arctic. Truth is, igloos weren't meant to be permanent winter homes at all. They were actually smart, quick-to-build shelters that Inuit hunters created while they were away from their main settlements. These snow houses served a very practical purpose, giving protection during hunting trips that could last anywhere from overnight to several weeks. The Inuit were traditionally semi-nomadic people who followed food sources throughout the year. During winter months when hunting took them far from their primary camps, igloos provided essential protection from the harsh Arctic elements. It's like the original pop-up shop, except instead of selling overpriced t-shirts, they were avoiding freezing to death. In fact, most Inuit families lived in more permanent dwellings made from whalebone, driftwood, animal skins, and sod during different seasons. What makes igloos truly remarkable is how perfectly they suited their purpose. They could be built using only what was available, snow, and required no carrying of building materials across the tundra. This meant hunters could travel light and fast, knowing they could create shelter wherever sufficient snow existed. Records from early Arctic explorers show that Inuit groups across northern Canada, Greenland, and Alaska all developed variations of the snow house. Each region had slight differences in construction methods based on their local snow conditions and needs. It's like how we all have slightly different methods for assembling furniture, except their way actually worked the first time. Some igloos were just big enough for 1 or 2 hunters to sleep in, while others were large enough for small gatherings. Think of it as the difference between a snow studio apartment and a snow 2-bedroom, both equally likely to confuse your pizza delivery guy. The real genius wasn't that they built houses out of snow, it was that they figured out how to do it without needing to call a contractor or wait 6 months for building permits. And you might be shocked at just how quickly an experienced Inuit hunter could create one of these snow shelters from scratch. How long does it take you to build something at home? Maybe hours to put together a simple shelf? Measure twice, cut once, panic 5 times, and read the instructions only after everything is already wrong. Well, that's where the Inuit would put us all to shame. The incredible speed at which igloos could be constructed stands as one of their most impressive features. An expert Inuit builder could construct a basic emergency shelter in as little as 30 minutes. That's about the same time it takes to order and receive a pizza, except instead of food, you get an entire building that won't collapse when you sneeze near it. The process began with testing the snow. Not all snow works for igloo building. The builder would probe the ground to find packed snow of the right consistency. It's the Goldilocks of construction materials. Not too soft, not too hard, but just right. Once the right snow was located, the builder would cut blocks using a knife made from bone, antler, or metal. A skilled builder worked in a continuous spiral pattern, creating the famous dome shape without any supporting framework. According to Arctic explorers, the fastest builders could complete a standard hunting igloo for 3 people in just 40 minutes. By comparison, it takes me 40 minutes just to decide what to have for dinner. The size of the blocks mattered too, about 2 feet long, 1.5 feet high, and 8 inches thick. A team of 2 could work even faster, one cutting blocks outside, the other placing them in position. The true amazement comes from understanding they built these structures without plans or measuring tools. No YouTube tutorials, no Building Igloos for Dummies books, just pure skill handed down over thousands of years. While the outside might look impressive, the real magic happened when you stepped inside. It's freezing outside. Inside? Not bad at all. This might be the most surprising fact about igloos for people who've never experienced one firsthand. Despite being made entirely of frozen water, the interior of a properly built igloo could maintain temperatures that were downright comfortable. How warm are we talking? When outside temperatures plummeted to negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, the inside of an occupied igloo could reach a balmy 60 degrees Fahrenheit near the sleeping platform. That's a 90-degree difference. You'd need fewer blankets in an igloo than in some budget hotels with broken heaters. The secret to this warmth came from several clever design features working together. First, snow itself is an excellent insulator. The countless tiny air pockets trapped within packed snow create a barrier that prevents heat from escaping quickly. Mother Nature's bubble wrap, minus the fun-popping sounds. Body heat made a big difference too. An adult human body gives off around 300 BTUs of heat per hour just by existing. With 3 or 4 hunters sharing the space, that added up quickly. The original renewable energy source, just keep breathing and try not to think about who ate beans for dinner. The third heat source came from oil lamps called qualics. These simple but effective lamps burned seal or whale oil, providing both light and additional warmth. Like scented candles, except instead of fresh linen or vanilla sugar, the fragrance was eau de seal oil. The real genius came from how the igloo was arranged. The entrance tunnel pointed downward and then up into the main chamber, creating a cold trap. The sleeping platform was built up high where the warmest air collected. Many Arctic explorers reported being so warm inside igloos that they had to remove layers of clothing. Nothing says successful winter housing like needing to crack a window in sub-zero temperatures. Of course, maintaining this comfortable environment required proper airflow. Despite how airtight an igloo might seem, proper ventilation was actually a crucial part of its design. You can't exactly install central air when your house is made of frozen water. Every properly built igloo included at least one ventilation hole located near the top of the dome. This small opening, usually about the width of a thumb, served multiple essential functions. First, it allowed fresh oxygen to circulate. Second, it provided an escape route for carbon dioxide and smoke from cooking or oil lamps. The Inuit understood the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning long before modern science gave it a name. Their solution was elegant in its simplicity. A small hole that created just enough draft to refresh the air without letting too much precious heat escape. The world's first HVAC system. A hole and hope for good weather. In especially cold conditions, these vent holes might develop delicate ice crystal formations around the edges as warm, moist air from inside met the freezing temperatures outside. These frozen flowers weren't just pretty decorations, they were literal breath-of-life indicators. If the crystals disappeared, it meant the hole had become blocked and needed immediate clearing. Moisture control was another benefit of this ventilation system. Human breathing alone releases about 1 pint of water vapor per person per day. Without a way to escape, this moisture would condense on the interior walls and eventually begin dripping down. Nothing ruins a good night's sleep like a midnight ice water facial. You'd wake up thinking your roof was leaking, except your roof is water. During severe storms, when the vent hole might need to be temporarily sealed, occupants would monitor the air quality carefully. The entrance tunnel provided some minimal air exchange, but a completely sealed igloo would eventually become uncomfortable. It's like the world's most extreme version of who forgot to open a window after cooking fish? And while the ventilation kept the air fresh, something else was happening to the structure itself as the days passed. The igloo was actually getting stronger. Most structures get weaker when they freeze and thaw. Wood cracks, concrete crumbles, and metal becomes brittle. But igloos, they actually got stronger after being built. Flip expectations, add snow, and suddenly the rules of physics decided to take a vacation. This counterintuitive fact helps explain why these snow shelters were so reliable in the harshest conditions. Here's what happened. When an igloo was first constructed, it consisted of blocks of compressed snow carefully arranged in that famous dome shape. The blocks themselves were strong, but the seams between them were relatively weak. At this stage, the igloo was still somewhat fragile, but once people moved in and started living inside, the interior temperature would rise from body heat and oil lamps. This warmer air would cause the inner surface of the snow blocks to melt very slightly. Not enough to damage the structure, just enough to create a thin layer of moisture on the interior walls. When night fell and the oil lamps were extinguished, this thin layer of moisture would refreeze. But instead of freezing back into the original snow blocks, it would form a continuous sheet of ice that covered the entire interior surface. The house literally improved overnight. If only the cracks in my walls would fix themselves while I sleep. It's like hiring a contractor who works exclusively while you're unconscious and doesn't charge a penny. This process would repeat each day and night, gradually transforming the interior from blocks of snow with visible seams into a solid ice shell. After several days of occupation, an igloo could become so strong that it would support the weight of a full-grown adult standing on top without collapsing. Tests conducted by modern researchers have shown that a properly constructed igloo that has gone through this freeze-thaw process can support more than 2,000 pounds of weight on its dome. That's approximately the weight of a small car. You could park your vehicle on your roof, though finding a snow ramp to drive it up there might be challenging. The strength comes from the way the dome distributes weight evenly to all parts of the structure. The transformation from snow to ice also made the igloo more weatherproof. Wind-driven snow would often pile up against the sides, providing additional insulation. Mother Nature trying to destroy your house accidentally makes it better. Talk about failing successfully. Even during blizzards with winds exceeding 50 miles per hour, the occupants inside could remain safe and relatively comfortable. It's the only house that gets a security upgrade just because you're living in it. No alarm system installation fees, just breathe and cook dinner. This structural strengthening had practical benefits beyond just safety. It meant hunters could store equipment on top of their igloo, keeping items out of reach of hungry Arctic foxes or other scavengers. It also meant that in emergency situations, such as sudden storms, multiple people could crowd into an igloo without fear of damaging it. And speaking of strength, these ice houses were remarkably resistant to external threats. A polar bear slip and sliding off a dome would make for amazing viral content if TikTok existed back then. 1,000 pounds of hungry polar bear on your roof sounds like a recipe for disaster. Yet, the humble igloo could actually withstand encounters with Arctic wildlife, including its largest predators. The strength of an igloo comes from its shape. The dome distributes pressure evenly across the entire structure. When force is applied to any single point, the curved walls redirect that pressure throughout the building instead of concentrating it in one spot. Who knew the Romans and Inuit had the same architectural group chat? The packed snow used to build igloos had surprising structural properties. When compressed and frozen into the dome shape, this material could support remarkable amounts of weight. A mature polar bear weighs between 800 and 1,500 pounds. Certainly hefty, but not enough to immediately collapse a well-constructed igloo. Of course, if a determined bear really wanted to get inside an igloo, it probably could. Bears are equipped with powerful claws designed for digging through ice to reach prey, but they generally had better things to do than breaking into snow houses, like catching seals or starring in cola commercials. Some Inuit groups would even test the strength of their completed igloos by having a person stand on top. Though I'm sure there was always that one guy who did a little dance up there just to make everyone nervous. If the dome could support an adult human, it would likely withstand harsh weather conditions, including heavy snowfall and intense winds. The igloo also had a built-in early warning system for potential collapse. If the dome began to weaken, small cracks would appear and a light dusting of snow might fall inside, giving people time to address the issue before a catastrophic failure. Home maintenance alerts without needing a fancy app or monthly subscription fee. The strength was impressive, but it wasn't the only clever feature of these snow shelters. The design had more surprises in store. Mention that even the slope and twist of the blocks had purpose. Every curve of an igloo served a specific function, creating a structure that was both beautiful and incredibly practical. The spiral pattern begins with the very first snow block. Inuit builders would start from the bottom and work upward, placing each successive block at a slight inward angle. This created a continuous spiral that wrapped all the way to the top, rather than stacking blocks in rings like a brick wall. Unlike my high school pottery projects that somehow always collapsed into sad lumps, these spirals held firm. This spiral design solved a major construction challenge: how to build a dome without temporary supports. In modern construction, domes typically require scaffolding. The spiral approach eliminated this need entirely. It's like a snowblock staircase that walks itself into a circle until it meets at the top. Engineering that would make modern architects drop their fancy digital blueprints in amazement. Inside the igloo, the spiral pattern served another clever purpose. It created a natural path for warm air to circulate. Heat from bodies and lamps would rise along the spiral, distributing warmth more evenly throughout the shelter. Mother Nature's central heating system, minus the monthly bills and that weird clanking noise your radiator makes. The interior layout followed the same brilliant approach to physics. The sleeping platform was always built higher up where warmer air collected. The entrance tunnel pointed down before coming back up, creating a cold trap that prevented the heavier cold air from flowing directly into the living space. It's like having a bouncer at the door saying, "Sorry, cold air, you're not on the guest list tonight." What makes this design even more impressive is that it was developed without written plans or mathematical calculations. The knowledge was passed down through generations by observation and practice. Try explaining to your GPS how to get somewhere without using words or pictures, and you'll appreciate how amazing this knowledge transfer really was. But perhaps the most amazing part was that Inuit builders weren't using just any snow they could find. Fluffy snow? That's decoration. Real igloo builders needed the good stuff. When it came to constructing igloos, the Inuit were extremely picky about their building material. It's like trying to build a sand castle with powdered sugar instead of wet sand. You just end up with a sweet mess. The ideal snow for igloo construction had been subjected to powerful Arctic winds that compressed the snowflakes together into a dense, uniform material. This wind-packed snow, called sinik in Inuktitut, could be cut into clean blocks that held their shape and supported weight. Experienced builders would probe the ground with their tools, listening for a specific hollow sound that indicated properly densified snow. Basically, they were snow sommeliers. Ah yes, this drift has excellent texture, a firm body, and just a hint of yesterday's blizzard. Traditionally, large snow knives made from caribou antler, walrus ivory, or whalebone served as the main cutting implements. Each block needed to be approximately 8 inches thick, 2 feet long, and 15 inches high, dimensions passed down through generations. Try eyeballing those measurements without a tape measure while standing in a blizzard. But snow selection was just one aspect of igloo building expertise. Once the structure was complete, many builders added special touches to make these survival shelters more comfortable. Even hunters in the middle of nowhere wanted a cozy vibe. While many igloos were simple survival shelters, others received special attention to make them more comfortable and appealing. Animal skins played a key role in decorating and insulating the interior. Caribou hides were hung from walls or used as floor coverings, providing both style and warmth. Interior decorating, Arctic edition, where throw pillows are actually thrown animal skins, and your rug might have been someone's dinner last week. Snow benches built along the interior walls were covered with multiple layers of hides to create comfortable seating and sleeping areas. In some regions, builders would incorporate windows made from clear freshwater ice or thin slices of seal intestine. Natural lighting before it was trendy, Arctic minimalism at its finest. Open concept living space with transparent gut curtains doesn't quite have the same ring in real estate listings. Beyond practical decorations, some igloos served special social and ceremonial purposes. Particularly large structures known as kagjik could be built for community gatherings, celebrations, and seasonal feasts. These ceremonial igloos could reach impressive dimensions with diameters up to 20 feet. During important festivals, these special igloos might be decorated with carved snow sculptures or ice lanterns. Dance performances, storytelling sessions, and community decision-making often took place in these larger structures. The original multi-purpose event venue, no rental fee, but you had to BYOS, bring your own shelter. Regardless of their purpose, igloo interiors reflected the Inuit understanding that comfort wasn't a luxury. It was necessary for survival in one of Earth's harshest environments. When it's -50 outside, cozy isn't just nice to have. It's the difference between life and freezing into a human popsicle. And while we might imagine igloos as relics of the past, these remarkable structures continue to have relevance even in our modern world. In many Inuit communities across the Canadian Arctic, Greenland, and Alaska, the traditional knowledge of igloo building is still actively taught and practiced. Several Inuit schools in Nunavut have formal programs where students learn to build snow shelters as part of their cultural education. It's probably the only school subject where homework could literally save your life someday. Military and search and rescue teams operating in Arctic regions also study and practice igloo construction. When mechanical shelters fail or fuel runs out, knowing how to create a shelter from the environment itself becomes crucial. For Canadian rangers patrolling remote northern areas, igloo building remains an essential skill taught alongside modern survival techniques. It's the only housing option with zero mortgage, no property taxes, and guaranteed to melt away before you need to clean it. For researchers working in polar regions, igloos sometimes provide practical field shelters. They're quiet inside, naturally camouflaged, and require no fuel to maintain a survivable temperature. Plus, when your research funding gets cut, at least your accommodation costs are covered. Just bring a really good pair of mittens. Some northern communities have begun incorporating igloo building into winter tourism activities. It's the only tourist activity where your accommodation might disappear during an unexpected warm day. Sorry, folks, your hotel just turned into a puddle, but great news, you get to build another one. When the internet goes down and the power grid fails, the person who knows how to turn a pile of snow into a cozy shelter will suddenly become the most popular friend in the neighborhood. The continued relevance of igloos speaks to something fundamental. Sometimes the oldest solutions remain the best ones. In the specific environment of the Arctic, where materials are scarce but snow is abundant, the igloo represents a perfect adaptation to local conditions. What makes the igloo truly remarkable isn't just its ingenious design or surprising comfort, it's how it transforms a harsh environment's greatest challenge into a solution. The igloo stands as a monument to human creativity and our ability to thrive in even the most challenging circumstances.